welcome back to Galactic Reviews. We are doing episode 2 of the Moon Knight. Short summary of the episode. Episode 2 starts off with Steven waking up in his bed like he normally does, only just after the battle had occurred, and he'd given up, I guess, possession of the body to Mark. And he goes back to the museum to basically go find out what happened and if all this is kind of real at this point, which I think is more solidified when he goes into the security tape with the security guard there who still doesn't know his name. And he goes and watches the security footage and he doesn't see any of the monsters that he was screaming like a little girl about all throughout the fight or the run, whatever. But he does see Mark looking right at the camera. Whoop-de-doo, he gets fired, obviously, because they didn't see anything and obviously have it on tape. He ends up finding out where that key that was with the phone goes, finds Mark's place. Mark says he needs to just let him carry out the mission and that'll be that, and he doesn't have to worry about anything else. Steven is scared by the gun in his bag and says he's not.
Hold on. When he goes to find the bag, there's a little QR code on the door. I scan the QR code. It takes you to a Marvel website with one of the original issues of a Moon Knight comic.
Really?
Yeah, like a free digital.
Wow, that's sick.
I was like, no way that's placed there. No way that's just random.
Now I'm kind of also hoping that there's more of them later on and like they're all hidden now, because that's actually kind of cool. Anyway, he goes, finds the gun. Mark says to let him handle the thing with the beetle or whatever, the scarab thingy that he got from last episode. Stevens says no, or he starts exiting, and then Khonshu shows up and kind of like threatens him without really doing anything, just sort of just scares him. And he runs into Layla from Mark's life, coincidentally in the middle of London. So
I think Layla ran into him, or almost.
They kind of both conjoined on the same, but like it was.
I mentioned
running into the street. She was driving by. It's a very big coincidence that they both just happened to meet. So, I mean,
very well.
Either way, Spencer runs into Layla. They go back to Spencer's place. Or Steven. I'm not saying Spencer. I don't really care.
Spencer. Anymore. My boy Spencer.
It's not even Stephen Grant from the comics. And we kind of discussed that. So, but yeah, Steven. I like calling him Spencer. That's better. Anyway, Steven goes into his house or apartment, gets taken by fake cops. Well, at least he does, because she's smart enough to hide. He gets taken by fake cops. Fake cops taken to Ethan Hawke's character. He is then talked to Ethan Hawke's character, who turns out he was once a Moon Knight or an avatar of Khonshu. So Mark tells him not to listen to him. Steven kind of does anyway. The evil dude summons a horrendous CGI monster and goes to attack Steven/Mark and Layla, who shows up. They both end up fighting this monster in which only Steven can see. And then Steven turns into Mr. Knight. He tries to fight the monster.
You can't skip out on his suit.
No, I said he turns into Mr. Knight.
That's assuming everyone knows there's a difference.
Yeah, but these people are smart enough to, I would hope that they're smart enough to look, okay, I'll put Moon Knight here and put Mr. Knight here. You happy, Andrew?
See, from me, a TV show only viewer, which is in the 95 percentile of probably the show watchers, I thought it was just Steven's like manifestation. I didn't know they were separate entities. I didn't know they classified.
Well, don't worry about it. Zach will get into it later. So anyway,
possibly
Steven gives Mark back possession of the body because Mark's way better at this than he is. And so Mark ends up killing the beast. The evil dude gets the scarab and leaves. And Khonshu threatens Mark that Layla will take his place if he doesn't stay his servant, I guess. And that's where it ends, with Mark going to Egypt to find the evil dude.
I thought he was going to Egypt to find...
Well, yeah, he's going to find the tomb before the evil dude does. So, yeah. Thoughts?
I really like whoever's voicing Khonshu.
I will agree with that. It is a good voice.
It is a very nice voice.
What I don't get is they made the Mr. Knight suit look way more accurate to the comics.
I mean, it's literally just a white suit with a
I
white
know.
hood
I know, but they
or
couldn't do that with
face
they couldn't.
mask,
Yeah, but they
whatever.
couldn't do that with Moon Knight, where instead they have him looking more like a mummy. Like they couldn't do that with Moon
I mean,
Knight.
no, literally all Moon Knight is. It's just for
No,
Moon Knight,
I'm just
the avatar gear he was given was just the cloak. So honestly, it's just a white cloak, and then he makes the rest of the gear pretty much himself. But in this, he kind of
in this it treats it more like a symbiote where he can just summon the suit,
mhm.
which is something that I heard somebody else say. I'm
I
not
mean,
going to
it
take
makes
credit
it
for that, but it really
it
does
makes
seem
it
like it.
easier. It makes it easier to move from one scene to another fluidly without him having to go change and everything. So I get it. Especially it's since they switch personalities so often in this. I can get past that. I can get that. But it was just the appearance of Mr. Knight caught me so off guard.
I told you it was
I
in the
was
trailer.
not yeah, but I was not expecting him so soon.
No, I wasn't either, but you never know. I was like, it's possible, but because I mean, you expect when they give out like trailers and stuff, they're not pushing anything past episode 3. So I
Yeah.
knew it was gonna be this or
But
third
the
episode,
but
but I
the
was gonna
thing
think
is
third.
But the thing is, I'm like Mr. Knight, yes, he's not as violent and aggressive as Moon Knight, but he still is extremely dangerous
But the
nonetheless.
problem with well, that's the thing though,
He's
and
more
this is what
reserved
well, that's the thing though.
and
It's not the
thoughtful.
same Steven, so it's not going to be the same Mr. Knight.
Well, yes, no, I know that.
Otherwise, yeah, I
But
definitely get that. But
I think they did a good job, I will say, on the costume for Mr. Knight.
yeah,
I've
I
always
wish they
just
did
loved
that.
the costume of Mr. Knight. It's just the whole white. I'm like, yeah, that
I
looks nice.
liked it. Man had drip.
I
He
just wish
did.
they did this. I just wish they had that same kind of thing for Moon Knight, essentially, because it was
Well,
just
what I'm hoping for is I hope he gets his second avatar. It's not really an avatar item. It's just an item he gets later on. His bone armor. I think that would be really fun to see. I don't know why I can never remember the name of the deity he's in service to. We just said it like 3 times.
Khonshu.
Khonshu. For some reason, I wanted to say
Gesundheit.
Kenku, and I was like, that's not it. That's something completely different. Khonshu.
Cancun.
No, well, it doesn't matter. Khonshu. It's
Gesundheit.
pretty much the skeleton of I would say a skeleton of him that he wears, and it's just extremely powerful, durable, and he's pretty much a walking tank at that point.
One thing I do note, and I don't know if this is exactly comic book accurate, but does Khonshu threaten Moon Knight almost every single day, or do they usually
thing
see
is-
eye to eye on things? Because that's
The thing,
one of the things
the
that
thi- yeah,
I don't remember seeing the few times I saw him. So I'm trying to figure out if that's actually
no, because it's more of a understanding. Because the way it
mutual
happens is
understanding,
he
like they don't-
he has his statue in his basement, and he will go there and get orders from him. So he goes there to him willingly. He wants to help, but in this, it kind of seems like he's being forced to help.
well,
I
yeah,
like
'cause
how it did
definitely
hint at a little bit of an origin,
well,
how
no, it
he
definitely
became
seems
well.
yeah.
To explain to Andrew how he became Moon Knight, he was pretty much shot
It
or
Seemed like
I think
from what I know, he was resurrected essentially.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
do say he was a corpse. So essentially he was
Yeah.
shot on a job, and I don't know if exactly he was in the
He was
vicinity
shot-
of a Khonshu
no, he was
altar or
shot.
something, but
One of
Khonshu just saw
one
him.
of the people that lived there brought him to the altar to take care
Okay.
of him, and he
Alright.
died in front of the altar, and he was resurrected.
Okay, so I was close. Somebody brought
You were-
him
yeah.
to the altar. That was a good.
Mhm.
I made a good guess. So
You were pretty accurate. He died in front of the altar, and he was brought back to life. Actually stole the cloak, Kenshu's cloak, and then came back and stole the statue later on.
well, that's nice of him.
Well, technically, the cloak had become his since he was his avatar.
Yeah, so technically that's all his
So
stuff
that's his
anyway.
avatar.
So
Yeah, that's his avatar gear. And then he stole the statue because that's how he directly speaks to him most
Mhm.
of the time.
Can't forget your telephone.
one thing that I did not like about this episode is that, especially with the Steven and Mark dynamic, that was really good. I did like that a lot. But one of the things that I didn't like was how, as soon as Layla showed up, it all kind of centered around her instead of Mark.
I think
Have a motive.
no, I think they used her and gave her enough light and centered it around her for a good reason, showing that she is the wife of Mark.
Yeah, I know, but that came out of nowhere.
And
Like the divorce papers came out of nowhere. Everything came out of
honestly,
nowhere.
that was a little surprising. I was expecting
She
that.
shows up in the middle of the thing, knowing that
And
Mark/Steven is kind of in like a weird crux of stuff and doesn't quite understand what's going on. She just shows up expecting him to get everything together. She full on boxes a guy. Like, I understand, like, superpower wise, like Black Widow, she's got those electric wristbands that can help with electrocuting people when she's punching them, but
which
she's got
apparently
nothing,
in
and she
this
full on
universe,
fist fighted and knocked somebody
well,
over.
from what I'm getting at, she is apparently another mercenary. So
Well, that's the thing.
looking at
It
it
doesn't say
that way,
anything.
well,
Even if
because
you look
she
at it
said
that
we
way,
were on the same job in Egypt. We got the scarab together, referring to that they both are technically probably more than likely mercenaries.
the weird thing about that is it doesn't say whether or not they were both mercenaries together in Egypt when he died. They were saying that they were both together when they were looking for that scarab.
Yes, but I'm like
So it
thinking of
doesn't.
it and giving it up the possibility. It very well could be that she could be a mercenary.
Yeah, I'm not
Since I mean,
denying
she
that, but I'm
pretty much
saying
pulled the
it doesn't.
Batman card and like hid in. The cops show up, she goes out the window and hides on the roof. I mean,
I'm
so
not.
she
Well,
knows what
also that,
she's
and
doing.
she's been married to Moon Knight for who knows how long, because they don't really explain any of that. So
I mean, he could have
she might
trained
be
her.
used to that anyway.
I mean, then again, I mean, I'm sure he would train his wife
Well, no, I
to be
think
able
he
to
would.
defend herself, since he's pretty
Yes,
much
but to
one of the
take
world's
on,
best mercenaries.
I get that, but to take on somebody who is almost at least 1.5 times your weight and 1.5 times your size.
If you know what you're doing,
Well, yes, but
and you
there's no
have, if you
technique.
know
It
what,
was full on, like, I
I
get it.
mean,
I get like
I would have
technique.
to, yeah, I would have to rewatch the scene again. I
There's
could
nothing.
honestly
Okay.
just watch the trailer, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying she is a mercenary. It would make a little bit more sense because if you know the right places to hit someone,
I get that, but like there's realism and then suspension of disbelief. Whereas with Catwoman in the Batman, you never thought like, oh yeah, she's completely out of her element trying to take on somebody else that's like twice her size. It was done in a way that, okay, it seems likely that she could do that. Whereas this one was like a full-on fist fight with a guy.
yeah, I will say I'll have to see more of her later on fighting to be able to say yes or no. It was one of those just movie magic type things, or it's possible she does have the skill and ability to do that. I'm sure we're gonna get a lot more fight scenes with her around later on,
Yeah,
but
I'm pretty sure this is gonna come up more times than one because I'm just like, how in the whatever.
From what I remember, she didn't do much fighting wise. She shoved a dude and then tried to fight an invisible demon dog. I don't
Well, no,
remember.
she should have. I don't know how she
the
that fight
invisible demon
was.
dog fight didn't make any sense to me.
No, it did not. Like, I don't even know how she was
I
landing
enjoyed
anything, but you know,
I enjoyed it for a moment, but then I was like, oh, they're just gonna continue having an invisible dog. You're not gonna be able to see it. To me, that kind of felt like they just didn't want to.
cheaping on CGI and just trying to get,
Yeah, and I
which
was like, I mean, I get it. That's more money, but
we already
I
kind of
was like,
stated with the whole Moon Knight at the end of that last episode.
I mean, I suppose, yeah. I mean, I was hoping to see a bit more, like it kind of flow from the end of episode 1 to like him walking out of the bathroom, meeting the other followers in there and having to fight his way out. But no, he just walks out. I was a little disappointed in that. We're talking about something before we got on the fact of Layla's fighting, and I don't remember
Well,
what
no,
it
it's
was.
just the sense that I don't think like it all seemed like to go from okay, Mark and Steven in that whole dynamic where they were kind of in having their quarrel and stuff, which they kind of did, to that almost taking somewhat of a backseat to Layla being more of a centerpiece in this whole Moon Knight thing, in
Oh
which I
yeah,
was
no, I
expecting more
remember.
of this Mark and Steven thing instead of the whole Layla becoming
I
the
will
new
say-
Moon Knight thing, which I thought was
Yeah.
weird and like it came out of nowhere, which I guess in retrospect,
Well,
I guess
the-
they can
also-
make it make sense, but it just came out of nowhere, kind of
Yeah,
like the
also,
divorce.
my knowledge on Moon Knight's villains and everything is not that sharp, but I'm pretty sure he was the first Avatar in a few centuries.
Yeah, which is one thing I don't quite get on how I'm gonna just say the actor's
And
name. Ethan Hawke's
honestly, yeah.
character is also an
And
And
avatar.
honestly, usually when you are chosen as an avatar, you're very compatible with said god. So your thought process is pretty much the same as his.
Which
So
wouldn't
for
have
you
been
to then turn your back and leave him, first, I would think there would be a lot of repercussions against that. And second, it just doesn't make sense to me because you're supposed to be pretty much one of the same mind at that point.
which then also begs then the problem of, okay, then explain Mark and Khonshu, because they're also having that same kind of quarrel. Well, Mark wants out as quick as possible. However, Khonshu is just like, no, because the next person I'm going to choose is going to be the one you love or whatever.
Which,
Like
yeah,
that kind
which is honestly odd.
And it's already
Because
been done before, and it already seems like,
I
and
mean,
it seems like they're
the
trying to
thing
go
is-
the route of Ghost Rider at the Nicolas Cage movie, where he's like, I don't want to be a part of your thing when he talks about the devil. However, it's
yeah,
also, and then they also, one thing I did find a problem with that is that he says he's going to choose Layla to be his next avatar.
which
However, Ethan Hawke's character has already stated that Khonshu can't do nothing but yell at you.
well,
So
that and
how much of a
to
problem is
be
that
his
going to be?
avatar, to be his avatar, Ethan Hawke even said you have to have a very specific type of moral judgment. I think it was. I think that's what he said.
And Layla's apparently got
moral
horrible
compass.
moral judgment because she just tried to convince Steven to try to sign paper. Well, she didn't read the situation correctly. She automatically thought, okay, divorce. So she's not good at reading the room, one, which a mercenary you would think would need to do.
It wasn't the fact that I mean, he has a lot of different identities, and he does get involved in those identities really well.
I know, but the problem
immersed
with
in them.
this, yeah, well, what the problem with this
So
is
I'm
that
not
all moving,
surprised that she was a little confused, but I was also a little surprised at the
I don't know
fact
why
that
she,
after after quite a while, I would think she's like, oh, there was something wrong with him mentally.
well, that, and also they're kind of throwing us, the audience, in the middle of this thing, not explaining everything that's come to this. So they're just expecting us to just stay in for the long ride in
What
order
I'm
for all
hoping
this to make
for
sense.
is since he's back in Egypt, he could meet up with his
Food
other
champ.
mercenary friend
Food champ.
and have more light shed on it. And he could meet with the people who brought him to the statue. So hopefully we'll get to see more light on his backstory / origin story.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I just think that should have happened in 1 and 2, not episode 3 or 4 or whenever this is actually going to happen, because it still hasn't happened yet. And we're just kind of just thrown.
They're just making references. To
Like I didn't watch
things that-
Iron Man. I didn't watch Iron Man expecting it not to go over Iron Man's story or backstory or how he went into being Iron Man. It didn't throw me right into Iron Man 2 and say, okay, you're gonna go try to figure out Iron Man as a character. That's what I
Well,
have a problem
Grant,
with.
that's a movie and not a TV show. Movie pacing
Yeah, I was
is
about to
very
say-
different than a TV show. They have
Okay.
to give you everything in a movie. In a TV show, they don't have to.
Okay, fine. Let's do that. Flash. Flash started out with showing you the backstory of Barry Allen, showing you how he got to
Yeah,
be
but
where he
that's
is as the Flash.
DC.
Arrow showed the same thing.
But that's also DC.
And that's also a different show. Not every show has to have the same formula.
Well,
No,
usually
but
for a
that's-
superhero show, I would think, especially
That's
for,
roughly how it works. That should
I'm
roughly
gonna
how
say,
it works.
especially for
If you're gonna do it,
a
if you're gonna do
superhero
that, and I mean they even
that
did it with Arrow. I'll give you this. They did it with Arrow in a good way, where they showed you how he went through training on the island in flashbacks throughout the whole season. It didn't throw in this whole thing about, oh yeah, you got to figure this character out in 2 episodes because we can't really explain it right now. Good luck. It showed you how Arrow came to be what he is, slowly and surely through Star City as well as the flashback.
So you have that perspective after watching the whole season. We've only seen 2 episodes.
I'm not saying it was from the whole season. It was from the few episodes we first watched of Arrow. Shows that it talks about his training as well as where he is now and how Star City is going to effectively change him from when he was on the island and getting training from then to coming back on now. You know, I'm just going to drop it. I don't think I'm going to get anywhere.
Well,
I'm just saying,
it's one
I
of those
think
things
it's,
I understand and I agree. It needs to have, because they reference things too much,
well, it needs to
a
have,
bit
yeah,
too much, that I think they should go into a little bit more detail. And
yeah,
I'm just hoping that all of what they're referencing gets explained in season 1. Because if it's not, then by the end of it, if people are very invested in it, they're still going to be left asking a whole bunch of questions
it seems more like
of
they're just throwing
what is
stuff
his
up against the
origin.
wall. Yeah, because it seems more like they're just throwing up stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, trying to get out as much as they can. And this seems like
Because
the
I
best
mean,
way to
the
do it.
thing is with his origin is very unique.
I would
I'm
like to have seen that
I'm trying
first
to figure out how to
episode.
word it, whether or not I'm going to say I want to. I'll just say
You're
I'm
probably not
looking
going to see
forward
it.
on how they would visually do his origin story.
I don't know if you're even going to see it. I think it's going to be what it. I think
Because
it's going to be what they've done already, with
yeah,
little
because
bits
the
and
thing,
pieces of information. You
because
got to put the pieces
well,
together.
what I'm hoping for, because they referenced Egypt and him killing everyone and killing the head archaeologist, which is false. They were attacked and he was trying to save the head archaeologist and failed, and that's how he ended up being shot in the chest and bringing in front of the statue and dying and then being resurrected.
That's the thing. They're going to make you put all the pieces together and make you try to figure this out. I don't think they're actually going to show an origin story.
That's why I'm hoping we can
I hope that
with
doesn't happen, but it seems like that might be the way they
Duchamp,
go.
I hope we can, because I'm pretty sure he was there as well
I believe so,
when
but
he
that's also
died.
the comics. That's also the comics, and
Yes.
from
So that's
Stephen
that's
Grant,
why
you
I'm
can already tell
hoping.
they're not gonna.
Well, that's why I'm hoping if we do meet him, he can shed more light on the backstory. Hopefully, we'll see some flashbacks. But I'm saying that's what I'm hoping for, and to me, at this point, I think that's the only thing they're going to give us, or the only way they can give us a flashback, unless they do some magic BS where he just goes in his head. Someone goes in his head, shows his memories, and then both Steven and Mark collide into one, and they're no longer two separate entities. They're one entity.
And they become Marvin.
But I just don't know. It's at this point a little unpredictable.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm also confused as why he's back in Egypt, because usually he doesn't go to Egypt unless he's doing another, unless I don't want to say he's doing another grave robbing, but in a way it's pretty much that. He goes to Egypt when someone finds something that could theoretically be dangerous, kills everyone, takes it, and puts it in a collection
And I mean, it's
that
kind
he
of what
has.
he's doing now. However, he doesn't have a collection, so I don't know what he's gonna
Yeah,
do with it at all. Because they've already ruined the whole Stephen Grant aspect, so I don't know what they're gonna do with it.
I don't know. I mean, I'll see how episode 3 goes. I'll see how just season 1 goes in general.
I
Hopefully, they're
just,
not trying to rush this so that they can add him into a movie as a side character, because if they're just doing this show to do that, I'm a little disappointed.
I don't
Um,
know, but I wouldn't push it past him, to be honest. Like I'm already
so
starting to see signs of this could go really sideways, or they could end up pulling out. But if they pull out, it's gonna be really, really wonky, and it's not gonna work out for either way.
I'm
So
a little
I'm,
impressed they haven't made any references to anything with the Avengers really just yet.
yeah,
So I think that's a good sign. But then again, they are in Europe and now in Egypt. So,
well, yeah. Well, also, where was Sokovia? Was that in Europe?
mm,
Because if it
hmm
was, then that really doesn't.
no, yeah, no, it's in Europe.
Then maybe they would have known about the Avengers then. So I mean, I don't know. See, this is. I mean, yeah, I get it. They're in London. They really shouldn't know much about the Avengers and stuff, but they
Well,
would
I
have
mean,
also.
they
It's
know the
also,
Avengers, but
but also didn't Eternals take place somewhat in London as well? At least with.
yes. So I
So
don't
I mean,
know where in the timeline Moon Knight's taking place.
I'm
If
assuming
this,
just right in the same timeline as they want everything now.
because I was thinking if they do a backstory for him, it would be like, hey, this is 2 years before this, or so many years before this, and then you have the next season, or if anything, just the first half of season 1 being the backstory, second half being hey, now we're up to present day, this is what happening and this is what he's doing.
I don't know.
So I don't know what direction they're going, if this is just going to be a standalone show, or if they're bringing in it, doing this to bring him into the movies.
I mean, there'd be no other reason for this than other to bring him into the movies, because that's what they're doing with a lot of other characters. Ironheart is, I think, one of them.
But the thing I'm mostly
there's a whole bunch
confused
of other
about,
ones as
I
well.
don't see how, I mean, I see how he could be useful, but
He's mostly a
he
street
likes
level
to
guy.
work alone, so he's not really a team player.
He's more like a Daredevil and Punisher kind of person, where he likes to work
Yeah.
alone. He doesn't mind working in a team, but don't expect him to work in a team almost every single day or
Yeah,
once
and
in a
when he
year.
does work in a team, he's like with very specific people,
Yeah,
and
like I would
usually
think,
those people do little to nothing because he's just going on a rampage.
which I mean, I would like to see them do one with Daredevil, Moon Knight, and Punisher all being on a team trying to figure out something. That'd be cool.
I mean, that would be
However,
really cool because he does
however-
work with Punisher quite often, actually.
yeah.
Or
Well,
does
I'm still
do side by sides with Punisher. So
Yeah.
I think that would be fun since they're
It'd be
both
fun, but I
technically
like to-
ex-Marines, ex-mercenaries.
yeah, and
Um,
that'd be fun. However, that depends on how the Moon Knight character goes. If it goes sour,
No,
then I really don't want it to happen.
so
But yeah.
I just don't know. Visually, I think this is going well. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing without going into the comic book stuff. I enjoy seeing one of my favorite characters on television doing a live action rendition. So I'm enjoying that, but I just don't know what direction they're going with the plot.
Well, my
And
hope is that they
that's
stay
really the
focused.
only concern I have so far.
Yeah, well, my hope is that they stay focused on the Steven and Mark kind of plot aspect instead of the whole Layla and Khonshu turning Layla into the next Moon Knight sort of aspect. I hope they stick
Honestly,
more
I
on the
feel
Moon
like
Knight and less on
I
the.
feel like they only brought that up as like a threat. I don't think
Yeah, but I don't know why, because I don't know why it would be a threat, considering that you just stated earlier that originally Khonshu and all these other Egyptian gods would choose avatars that would have roughly the same mindset.
Well,
as the god itself.
he also said to bring someone back to life takes a lot of power and energy. And he brought Mark back to life solely to become an avatar. And he is known as one of the strongest avatars Kenshu has ever had because his mentality is pretty much identical to Kenshu's. He wants to have revenge on people who's done evil deeds, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I would think Mark would be all for that. However, I don't see why they're creating this divide
Yeah, I'm a little
with
confused
them
on
when
that
it seems like they could really work more together than apart.
because in the comic books, Mark really did just embrace it and take it in as this is who I am, and
Which
I'm going to do everything in my power to
Yeah.
fulfill my purpose in life now that I've been brought back to life because
Which-
he is my savior.
Which I mean, it did seem like it originally was going to go that route in which Steven was kind of like being the antithesis to Mark and saying, I don't really like this. I don't really like this guy.
I mean,
really
which
don't." And
Kenshu did bring up. He said Mark said that Steven wasn't going to be a problem. So
Yeah.
my question is, did he already have split personality before he met with Kenshu?
I think what happened was, well,
And
I
if
think
he
he
did,
already,
then how did
let's-
Layla not know about it?
well, yeah, see, it doesn't explain that. But what I think happened was Steven was already like a personality that he had just gotten rid of or done with in his head. And so when Kenshu brought him back to life, he also brought back up that personality and not only bringing him back to life, but bringing him into his own separate form. That's the best way I can
Understandable.
bring that up.
That
Because then
no,
otherwise
that
this
could
doesn't make
very
any
well
sense.
be a possibility. No, that could very well be a
And that doesn't
possibility
mean
that
that-
they could make up.
And they also could bring up multiple other ones because they've already kind of laid that groundwork. However, I don't know why they decided to do all this stuff with making Stephen Grant a completely different one than he is from the comics. I think if they were to do this, they should have done it with a new personality, which I know you didn't like, but I would have rather than done it with a new personality.
Yeah, just make
then
a
have
new
a-
personality.
And then have the three, like having Mark, Steven, and Jake trying to figure out what to do with this new fourth and how to kind of either work with them or try to shove him out. So, I mean, that would have been a more interesting dynamic than what we've got. However, I don't know how that much that would have changed the show, but also I don't know how good the show is going to be from here on out because stuff I've seen has already been somewhat questionable at most. So,
I'm just wondering on what direction they're going
and I know it sounds like
because
I'm
with
really
the comic
critiquing this
books,
show.
no, I know.
I'm
With
not
the comic
trying
books,
to, but I'm just trying to say
yeah.
realistically, with all the stuff we've seen in previous Marvel shows, I'm most afraid of this because it's one character that I know the least about and I wish has the most promise in it. And from what I've heard from Zach, from what I've heard from other people, and from what I really want to read, this character seems amazing. And I don't want to see him ruined because he is a very unique character, much like the Creeper, which is another
Yes.
character I really like. And I don't like it when other characters are ruined.
I will say they've taken a lot out of him, but if they give him a backstory and put pieces together, I can see the possibility of them bringing him back to full power. But I just don't know how they're going to do that with the way they're going if they skip an explanation in Egypt.
What's your thoughts, Andrew?
I'm enjoying the show.
We
I
can be
mean, I am
throwing stuff.
too, 100%. I am. As I said earlier, it could very well be just because this is one of my favorite superheroes. So just being able to see him in live action is just enjoyable for me.
I mean, I did it certain parts. It's just there was a certain part about like I like the show like the second episode, 30 minutes into it, and then when Layla showed up, that's kind of when I stopped liking it as much, I guess, because it focused more on her and less on Mark and Steven and their whole dynamic that they had kind of
Well,
already
it
established.
was a brand new character that was brought up like
Yeah,
2 minutes in the previous episode, and
but
then
she
it
was
just
already
throws you at, oh, this is, by the way, also your wife, which Mark wants to divorce to
yeah,
keep her safe. And I'm
but
like,
it also
wow, that was
she
the
also
biggest
yeah,
plot twist I have
yeah,
seen in a while. I
yeah.
was not expecting that.
I wasn't either, but it also seems shoehorned in out of nowhere.
Because the
Also,
thing is,
she shows up
I'm
Steven
pretty sure
multiple
he
times
gets
with
married,
hieroglyphics. Yeah.
but I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it's much later on that he gets married. So that's why I'm a little confused at where in the line this takes place. Like how long has he been Moon Knight? Since
Hmm.
she knows that he's Moon Knight. So he's had to be Moon Knight for at least a year, maybe two. If that's the case, is Steven a new personality that's just popped up?
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't explain anything. It just expects you to just speculate, and then it'll answer it maybe on episode 5, which these shows have all often done. So
Yeah,
if you're lucky,
I literally keep on going back to this, but my only concern and complaint is I don't know the direction and I want a backstory to have a little
yeah.
clarity at what type of direction you're going with this.
Which is what I wish they started off with. Started off with a backstory, which they kind of did with Hawkeye for Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye thing. Is start off with a backstory, go to opening title, and then just say 5, 10, 20 years later, and then show Stephen Grant,
Even if it was like a
show
flip
it's a
book
different, show it's a completely
thing.
different person. That would have
I
been a
mean,
great way for me. That would have been a great way to introduce us to somewhat Mark
it
and
very
then
well could
introduce
have
us to
been like
Steven.
one of those things where it's like a monologue for the first 5 minutes of, so this, I was in Egypt, blah blah blah, I died, was resurrected, now I've been Moon Knight. I've been Moon Knight for the past like 2-3 years, and
And then be
so on,
like,
so on, so
however,
on.
I've now got a prop, and then intro Steven.
I
That
mean,
would have been good. However, it doesn't do that. It just automatically throws in Steven, then throws in the whole Mark thing about him finding out he's got dual personalities, and then throwing in all kinds of other stuff one after the other without really an explanation, kind of making you think this through and try to
which
put the
I mean
pieces
is
together.
something that, I mean, the comic books do. You have to, there's a lot of thinking you have to do between different, seeing him as different characters and putting pieces together.
Yeah, which I don't
But
mind seeing. However, I would like for him to at least have a right intro, the right sort of origins, as you would
now
say.
that I think about it, he doesn't have, there's not an opening like theme song or anything for Moon Knight, is there?
I don't think so. If there is, it's not that memorable.
I will say, however, what we've seen of the combat with Moon Knight, I've enjoyed. Even
Well,
though it's been brief, I've enjoyed it nonetheless.
yeah, like especially that
Just how
last
well,
episode where we just only saw the aftermath and not really the fight.
yeah, he's very thoughtful, methodical. So watching him run across the rooftops and be like, I'm almost there. Jump off and just, throw him on the. I was like, that's Moon Knight. Very violent,
This
very
is
aggressive.
Sparta.
Yeah, very, very violent.
Yeah,
but
which I
very
would like to see
methodical.
more of. However, we had to get to episode 2 to see Moon Knight be Moon Knight, is what I'm saying.
And I feel like we'll see more in episode 3, but I'm more concerned on the mental state of Mark now. Since,
Yeah.
I mean, apparently every mirror he encounters, he breaks. Seeing as in Egypt, it starts from a mirror that's been shattered to him on the floor drinking whatever he's drinking.
I like how he said it takes all your willpower to do it. And almost every single time we see a mirror, we see Steven talking to Mark. It's like, okay, which one is it? It's kind of like the thing with Khonshu. If he can't do anything, then why should the fear of Layla becoming the next Avatar be such an effect? Which one is it?
Well, it's one of those things, once you die, you're no longer the Avatar, which makes me confused of why he is.
Well, that'd be comic books.
Well, yes, but I mean, even in Egyptian history, to no longer become an Avatar, you either become extremely old and they take it from you, but when they take it from you, you die. So the end result is you die no matter what.
Well, yeah, but that wouldn't explain Ethan Hawke's character, the evil guy.
I mean, exactly, and that's what I was getting at. I just don't understand how that happened.
I don't like it when they just take stuff, the lore, and don't apply it accurately and just try to make it sound as good as they can. And that's kind of what they seems like they're doing here. So
But I will say I do kind of think it's funny and I kind of enjoy it. And I kind of hope we see some hand-to-hand combat between the former Moon Knight and the current Moon Knight to see how they stack up. I think that would be a cool and interesting fight.
I would think Mark would win. His
I mean,
whole power is
it,
all stuck in
let's
that.
be honest, it's titled Moon Knight. He's
Yeah,
gonna
I know.
win regardless.
I mean, yeah, that's
Maybe
all
he'll
that.
only lose if he's on the other side of the river. No, I get nothing for that. That was an Egyptian
No.
joke. I'm sorry, I'll take it back.
Understood it.
Thanks. It wasn't good, was it?
That was good. I understood it.
Okay.
That's all I got. I'm just concerned. First episode was good. Second episode was a little bit worse, but still relatively good. Just hoping it stays good and doesn't keep faltering down like I'm starting
I
to
do
see.
enjoy seeing the two weapons or the two different weapons and hoping to see the two different fighting styles between Moon Knight and Mr. Knight.
I know, which was great to see that, even though we never got to see that.
Well, just seeing the crescent moons and then seeing his,
Two batons, essentially.
yeah, I can't remember
Nightwing
the
sticks.
legitimate, yeah, I
just call
can't
them the
remember
Nightwing
the
sticks.
exact name
The
of
Daredevil schema sticks or whatever.
of those. But yeah, I kind of hope Moon Knight, or really both of them, get actual gear like the grapple hook and stuff.
Well, yeah, the weird thing is going to be, however, Steven is way more of a pacifist, and Mark's more of a go into action sort of guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's actually going to try to teach Steven how to fight, or how Steven's going to try to learn how to fight, because he doesn't know squat.
Yes, no, I do agree. But I mean,
About fighting.
with Mr. Knight, it's pretty much he is fighting, but it's mostly using the force of his opponent against them and just redirecting it.
That would
snapping
still take
arms, breaking
training, though.
limbs.
That
I mean,
would still
yes.
take some training, though, and that
But
would be something he would need.
But as an avatar,
And I mean, I
and
get that.
since he's a split personality, it might be easier since he technically already has the knowledge and the muscle memory from one. So I would
Yeah.
think it would be easy for him to learn theoretically. I'm
Yeah.
not really sure because
And I
I
get-
don't think there has
Yeah.
been someone with a split personality that teaches their other. I don't know. I would have to look. If there's someone
I
who
don't think
has
that's-
split personality that teaches another one of their personalities to do something that personality knows how to do.
Well, I mean, he could also just have a mirror and then have a punching bag dummy, and Mark can like kind of critique him on
suppose.
everything. And I get the whole like
Possible.
aggressive and passive, because that's sort of the Hawk and Dove aspect, where Hank was always aggressive and was always fighting first. Dove or Dawn was always using the force against the opponent that they were using. So
yeah,
he would like take the punch and like move it around the back. That's the kind of stuff Dawn would do. So I get that whole aspect. It's just they need to implement it better if they're gonna do that kind of aspect.
And I hope they will. I really do. But we'll see what the rest of the season has.
There's definitely some things I like about the show, and definitely some things I don't. I just don't want to see it go to trash.
All I'll
So,
say, last thing I'll say, rip the goldfish, because we all know he's dead.
and he was the real hero.
Thank you guys for joining us on our episode 2 discussion of Moon Knight. We will see you next time when we most likely will do episode 3. Look out for our review of Morbius coming up soon, and check out some of our other reviews if you haven't seen them. Check us out on Twitter. I'm trying to be more active on there. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Audea now is a new podcasting platform. Check it out if you haven't seen it. And Rumble is, you just are against YouTube. That being said, we will see you next time.